Moving on to our next panel discussion on voice in the banking sector. Skit is an augmented voice intelligence platform helping businesses modernize their contact centers. With their domain expertise in delivering intelligent banking experiences, they help the country's leading banks redefine their customer experience on the voice channel. This session is brought to you by our presenting partner, Skit.ai. For the panel discussion on collaborative power of voice AI in banking, may I invite Ms. Sindhu Kashyaap, Associate Editor at YourStory Media, to moderate this session. Panelists for this session will be Mr. Antony Jaison, DGM FinTech Engagement at IDBI, Mr. Dinesh Dhanuka, Vice President Strategy and Collection at IDFC First Bank, Mr. Tanmay Shah, Assistant Vice President Conversational AI at Axis Bank, Mr. Aman Duggal, Senior Vice President, Head of Service and Client Experience, Affluent Banking at IndusInd Bank. He will be joining the panel virtually. Mr. Girish Sharma, Vice President, Customer Experience at AU Small Finance Bank, and Mr. Gangadhar Kodandaram, Chief Revenue Officer at Skit.ai. Speakers, the stage is all yours.
We have a very interesting conversation that can swing both ways. So it's a tough ask, and not from me, I'm sure, because it's the panelists who have most of the knowledge. So thank you so much for talking to us today, and I hope to have a very insightful and interesting conversation. But before we begin, it would be great if each one of you introduce yourselves and tell us what you're doing in the space.
Thank you for inviting me for this panel discussion. My name is Antony Jaison. I have almost more than 2 decades of experience in banking in various banking aspects, including the technology areas as well. Currently, I look at the FinTech engagements at IDBI Bank.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me as a speaker here. Dinesh Dhanuka. I work at IDFC First Bank as project head for collections vertical. Have experience in telecom and banking since last 20 years.
So my name is Tanmay Shah. I work for Axis Bank, and I primarily work in the conversational AI space and look after the chatbots and the voice bots for Axis Bank.
Girish here. I work with AU Small Finance Bank. I manage customer experience at AU. And I've worked with a couple of other banks. Again, I mean, I've been into BFSI industry for almost 15 years now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Gangadhar. I'm the CRO at Skit. Last 2 decades, I've been working with enterprises on various solutions, technologies, and in sales leadership roles.
The segment is quite interesting when you talk about conversational AI, voice tech, voice bots. There's so much of it, and it's been in talks for the past decade, close to a decade, but only in the past 2 years, and I think it's primarily because of the pandemic and COVID that, it has seen a significant upward swing and push. But before I get into conversational AI and voice tech, I would like to understand from each of you, since you have such deep banking background, about, how the landscape of, the industry itself, whether it's financial services or banking, that has transformed in close to this decade right now. Antony, we can start with you.
Yeah. See, if you look at the changes in the banking landscape, there has been it's a tremendous change which has happened in the last 2 decades. If you see how banking was done in 1990s, it's all started on the manual ledgers. There was, again, those kind of voice interactions were there, but it was human-to-human voice interactions. Those banking things which were done manually has been transformed into a technology. Technology has slowly crept into and automatized many of the routine, mundane works there. Then came your channels, then came the ATMs which could deliver cash. It literally took away all those kind of queues in the bank. Then came your customer services, where the delivery of customer service has improved tremendously. Then now it comes to the way in which you put AI into those technology, and then you bring in those conversational kind of interfaces to the customer, where you apply human touch. See, in previous banking scenarios, if you look at when customers sit across face to face and talk, the customer service agent or the officer at the bank and the customer could read the emotions in the face. Technology has brought in, it has given total tremendous efficiency to the system, but that emotional capture has still not been, could not be totally possible till now. So maybe with training your bots, training your technology in such a way that if you could capture those kind of emotions, I think that will be the best scenario where the banking things could be delivered efficiently with a very human touch.
What is your view on it?
Yeah, completely agree on the last point that he said, the human touch, the emotions, and we've already seen that. Just to give an example, if you're talking to a bot, and so I'm from collections, so I'll take collections as a use case. Customer will say that I am not able to pay my EMI because met with an accident, there was a death in the family. So the bot is trained enough already at this point in time to be empathetic and understand why, that this is the case because of which the customer is not able to pay. While would still want the customer to pay, but that empathy at the start is there. So that journey is already started, but yes, a long way to go. But we've embarked on that journey already. Yeah.
And I guess just to add to what the other two panelists have said, just on the evolution of banking. So let's take a simple, very basic banking exercise like sending money to someone. Earlier, you had to go to branch, you had to fill out forms, you had to wait in queue. Then slowly we started moving towards net banking, now mobile banking. And with voice AI, I just need to voice it out. Set 5,000 to Sindhu and the bot will take care of itself. So that's the technology we are slowly moving towards, that you don't even need to open your apps or go to net banking. It's all going to be seamless going forward.
So, I mean, for me, I see the banking in last 10 years, rather, it's got disrupted big time with the deployments of mobile applications. You see conversational AI is getting into customer service environment. And I still remember the times when people used to visit the branches in the queues and people used to get the tokens wait to their turn to come. And then they used to probably do their transactions. From there, we have come to a place wherein you have to just voice out what just now Tanmay said. You have to just voice out, you got to make a transaction and that happens in a click of a button, that's it. So obviously there have been a lot of changes and changes are there in process. There have been a lot of changes in terms of conversation which are being made in the branches, which are happening at the contact centers right now, or happening through the websites or their mobile applications and everything. And there are the many yet to come. I mean, that's how I see the changes which are happening in the banking space.
Gangadhar, to add to that, what I would like to understand from you is, how has this liaison between, the banking side, which is now starting to significantly adopt technology, and it has been for a significant period of time, to the consumer adopting and understanding and their needs, how do you find a middle ground between these two?
Sure. So, I'll pick a cue from what Antony was mentioning about how the banking 20, 30 years back, practically there was no competition to banks. You go to a bank, you get a token, and you think manager actually owns your money. And you wait, give the token, and you cannot ask, even if it is 30 minutes delay, you have to actually wait. Yeah. Now, most of us have seen that, yes, how the banking was. And today, if you look at how the landscape is changing, today neobanks, you don't have to go anywhere. Before you could finish your breakfast, your account is opened. Today, 10-minute delivery. The same consumer you're addressing, who on one side is getting a 10-minute delivery from Zepto, and the service quality levels expected from bank where I keep my money is much higher than a Zepto, because Zepto is giving me a product, bank is giving me a service. They're taking my money and giving a service out of my money. Is how today's consumer is looking at the banking system. Which means, whatever customer experience you are delivering today is not enough, because there is always someone else who can do it better. Today, if you look at all the touch points of a customer and a brand, like the so-called omni-channel, like starting from email to chat to voice to contact center, everywhere. At Assuming even one of them does not work, today customers are willing to switch brands for one bad experience. I see that the pressure on brands to service the customer at a cost affordable is really changing by the day. And I think the current landscape is, can I really deliver the highest quality at the same time without burning pockets? Is how banks are looking at anything what they do in technology. And technology for the sake of technology, I don't think anybody is doing. Which 20, 30 years back, I would say, they were doing because RBI is mandating me to do certain things. That's my view.
You know, it's interesting because all of you have brought in the point of human centricity and the touch points. You mentioned empathy is extremely important. You gave an example too. But, you know, how do you decode that when it comes to technology? These algorithms take time to understand that. Bots take time to understand that. Conversational AI is currently, while not exactly in its nascent stages, it's not yet there. So how do you work and find that balance? Maybe you can start with that, Anthony.
See, in the morning session, somewhere I was listening to some of the speakers where it was said that the chat-based thing has more adaptability compared to the voice. It's because, see, in voice, you can read emotions. Voice, you can read emotions. You can understand whether that customer is irritated, the customer is happy, the customer is what. You can just decode it very fast. And today, if you look at any of the IVR conversations which are happening, the first moment you can understand this is a computer which is speaking to you. The moment you understand there's a computer which is speaking to you, then that human element is lost. And that's why the chat-based, text-based things are more adoptable, because there you could, in fact, you can, in a much better way, you can convey the emotions. And that's what we need to train these bots. I have been in some of those booths where some of those solutions has come to a near real-time kind of how the humans speak. You need to understand the tone. You need to understand the modulation of the speech. You need to understand the pace, and then keep in pace with what the customer. So it becomes today. If I, as a customer, if I go to a bank and speak to the manager, what the way in which I speak, I get a reciprocating kind of answer. I have to have a bot which does the same thing. If you want to give excellent customer experience, till such thing has been achieved, we still are a long way to go into delivering a voice technology in banking.
And before I go to the next panelist, just wanted to understand, Anthony, how does that help redefine a customer experience per se? If you have a voice, I mean, yeah, personally as a customer, if I hear something that sounds like a computer IVR talking to me, it would be annoying. But I think most consumers are also getting equally intelligent and savvy today. So how do you find that balance?
See, I'll put in a small example. So where voice can also help you out in the sense, for example, many of the customers who are coming to a digital channel for the first time, little time it takes to, kind of adjust to those nuances of technology and other thing. Suppose if somebody is there who could speak to me and tell me, see, boss, this is the way you need to do it. You can guide him how to do it in a, which is more or less kind of a very human in nature. So I will stick on to that particular technology because I have been taught and trained to do it like that. Somebody has trained me. But if it's kind of a bot which is telling to me, I still take, okay, it's a bot which has told me. It will ring in my bite. Some computer has told me. So I need not remember what computer has told me always, because everybody, I don't know how many people will be very technologically very attached to it in the sense. So if you want to attach something, there should be some emotions to it. So that emotional attachment only creates a long-standing relationship. So that's where I feel that this will pick up with emotions getting played into it.
Right. What is your view on this?
So what he said, and to build on it, the bot that we had 4 or 5 years back, which will typically sound like a machine, and what we see today, we've come a long way. They are not 100% human, but they are very close. And I'm sure with their help, we'll be able to evolve it even better. But yes, long way to go, but we are there. So once we evolve, once we learn, and put all the intelligence, I think across the bank there will be this one voice which will sell, service, collect, and do everything.
But is there something in your personal experience that you feel brings out that, the beauty of technology and yet has that human empathy and human element to it? Would you have an example to point out?
Yeah. So we first started bot for collections about four years back, and it was exactly the machine voice that we had. It was the initial days of Alexa, and the demo that we gave to our CXOs was on Alexa, by the way. But today the bot that we run is evolved. Not all customers will be able to make out that this is a bot. That's the level that we have reached.
Right, right. Your view?
Yeah. So basically, just to supplement the same argument of you with few examples. So the way we've tried to address this situation is to define clear use cases as to where voice bot or voice AI will be useful and where we'll not be using the same. And once, let's say, a bank or an organization defines those use cases, then you can actually go ahead and design your bots with a specific persona or specific personality. And I feel that has helped us give that human touch, bring that emotional angle to your bot, because now I know the context in which my bot is supposed to operate. Is it going to be a general bot who's just going to be answering customer queries? Or is it going to be a very specific bot servicing customer in a specific way? So basis this definition, you can actually define the tonality of the bot. You can define the language in which the bot is conversing. So these are few of the examples that we have tried to build in our solution to address the human centricity problem.
Your view?
So I have a different opinion to this. I say, when we say the tonality of the bot maybe, or the way that bots generally speaks, people don't get attached. I mean, basically involved with it. I say people are using Alexa now. It doesn't sound like a human. People are using Siri. It doesn't sound like a human though. But those are being adopted and are being used, and people are pretty happy using those options. And I would rather say the voice bot is not a product. Voice bot standalone is not a product. Voice bot enabled with artificial intelligence is a product. So here, I was talking to another, person there, and she was telling me that we have these features available. I said, forget about voice bot. See, anybody can create a voice bot. That's not an tedious task to do. We've been listening to bots from last 5-6 years almost. Yeah. Those were not interactives. Yes, we were hearing call recordings. Your EMI is due, so-and-so date, this is the product and everything, and you were doing it, you were taking the action or not. That's a different part. I'm saying if your bot and your intelligence is such which can understand from customer and build that efficiency or that intelligence behind the screen, and then the next time the same person or maybe the same situation comes in, and the response is from that learning itself, which a human generally does. That's the product that people are actually looking at, and those such solutions are available, and those are being actually deployed right now in the organizations. Banking being a complicated business, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not like e-commerce when people are just calling to check the status of their product, when will that be getting delivered. The use cases are, less in banking, in collections, sales, service, and service itself is pretty complicated. So use cases are, humongous. But if the AI is working well, the voice bot enabled with AI is the product that people are generally looking at.
So just to add to that, there was a very interesting comment made by a panelist yesterday that you do not need to put emotion into the bot. What you need to do is to make your bot intelligent enough to understand human emotion. Your bot need not be emotional itself, but at least he needs to be able to respond to the human emotion.
Right, right. That would be interesting if bots start understanding human emotions.
It would be scary maybe after
And
a
it would
point.
be extremely scary. That's a different conversation altogether. But Gangadhar, understanding from you, you come from a company like Skit, an organization like Skit that has been deeply working with both banks and consumers and understanding their needs. Could you talk about a few examples, use cases that you have seen and how it is effective?
I also want to take a slightly different perspective here. If you look at, again, voice bots are not for every single use case, every single customer, every single scenario.
Yeah.
If human touch was so important, why 50% calls are getting dropped on IVR? If human touch was that important, every call should be addressed by human. Why statement request is going on a IVR? Why is that we're not talking? The reason is that enterprise has to draw a line that my affordability is this much. So when an IVR today, if you look at the customer perspective, anybody in this room calling an IVR will tell, wow, I had a fantastic experience. We're all frustrated with IVR experience, right? Mostly. And so the whole point to see the adoption of the voice bot journey itself is today, can I look at my CA customer experience today when a customer first calls a contact center? And most organizations I have seen today, the large ones, banks especially, recently I was changing my debit card limit when RBI made a mandate 3 months bank change. I had to press 17 times a number to get my debit card limit enhanced on a IVR. And just to let you know, that's the first time ever I called my banker after 7 years. Imagine my experience as a consumer. Now, I have really no loyalty. Tomorrow morning, somebody will come and tell, I might switch my bank account. I don't even care, right? This is how customers today are thinking. Okay? So VoiceBot, back to the point is that, one is, it is a spectrum. We are not saying VoiceBot is applicable everywhere. Are there use cases today where human agent is not adding any value to that call and behaving like a machine? That is the first prospect for your low-hanging fruit, which you should automate to a voice bot rather than pushing it to an IVR, because today every bank is striving in the competition to upsell and cross-sell. Imagine a customer called and you put the customer through a huge IVR tree for 45 seconds and then agent also said, sir, please hold on, my system is slow, and took 2 minutes to solve a problem. You lost an upsell opportunity. Imagine you solved that problem in 0 wait time and first 30 seconds. At the end, the bot actually can ask the customer, hey, by the way, I have an interesting offer for you on a credit card. Can I arrange a call back? The propensity for the customer to say yes is 3 times higher than a customer who was waited on a call for 60 seconds to speak to an agent. Coming back to your question on use cases, so we typically have seen inbound automation in bank is a very big thing, because 80% of all the queries which come to bank are repetitive queries. On the outbound side, we are seeing huge traction from a collection perspective, lead qualification perspective, and an NPS perspective. So this, almost all the top banks in India are looking at moving at least 30 to 40% of their complete voice process onto bots in the next 12 to 18 months is what my rating is.
Wow, that's a really short time frame as opposed to a pre-pandemic era. Could you just give an example of what this was before such strong adoption?
Yeah. See, the first top 3 banks in India actually onboarded on the voice journey 2.5 years back. And if you see segment first banks or any industries for that matter, I think 2 to 3 years back, they were the leader, 1 or 2 really technology leaders were looking at aggressively. Today, I can talk in the banking, probably 90% of banks are talking of automating voice process, one or the other process. And I'm very confident it's not even going to take a year and a half. In next 1 to 2 quarters, I see some amount of voice bot, conversational voice bot implemented by 60-70% of all the banks in India. I mean, almost all of them are in advanced stage of journey, understanding, evaluation, multiple stages. It's next 1 year, don't be surprised that when you call, you only will be speaking to a bot.
Great. I'm not sure if Aman is on yet, but I'd just like to move on because it was a very interesting point Gangadhar brought in, when he was saying that it is after 7 years that he was calling his bank. And I think we're all so used to using mobile banking. Sorry, I think Aman is here. Aman, can you hear me? Hi. But we can't, I think you're on mute. Yes, yes, we can hear you and we can see you. Finally. But Aman, sorry to interrupt, but Aman, please do introduce yourself and let's get quickly into, how, the consumer has adopted quickly towards conversational AI and voice bots today.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing me in and thanks to panel and everybody for waiting and hearing this. So while people talk a lot about technology, but sometimes this is what happens. The actual deployment of technology doesn't happen seamlessly all the time. So I think we have to all clear that. So hi everybody, I'm Aman Duggal. I handle customer experience for IndusInd Bank. And we have been one of the banks who has believed in disruption and innovation on technology for customer experience for many years now. And now our disruptions, even much before the buzzword of customer experience was being used, some of our innovations redefined the way certain customer journey happens. And since you have been wearing the panelists on this subject of conversational AI and how we can really change the game. It's actually not even change the game; it's becoming an imperative now. And Aman was just sharing that it's in a very quick time because the pricing for maybe most banks are looking at conversational AI to really replace their voice-based processing. And this is a reality. I can vouch that, to answer. But what I would really like to speak about more from the customer standpoint. So, I think, in this adoption and journey towards, digital, digitalization of customer journey, adoption of earlier voice-based, now chat-based, conversational AI, like chatbots, everybody has done that. Similar solutions on the credit side, lending. Sometimes we get too encumbered by the technology aspect of it, and not really look at the customer experience. I think that's what I would like to talk about. So, what has changed drastically in the last 2 years is that while banking was already on its way to adopt virtual models, local banking models, but COVID really changed the landscape. So customers today, are no more. In fact, there was a survey done across banking customers sometime during the last quarter of 2021, and 89% of customers are not looking forward to visiting branches or ATMs, or even meeting, somebody in person who would come to their house, somebody like a business family. And again, I think one of the panelists did say that he happened to speak to his bank after 7 years. So that's the reality. And 7 years, of course, includes 5 years pre-COVID, but COVID has really accelerated this new normal of consumer demand in banking. And it's changing so rapidly that we as banks have to fundamentally rethink how we interact with customers across journeys, whether it is simplest of requests like I want a statement, I want to know my balances, I want to where my account, I want an edge book, I want to change my active maturity instructions. Across these customer journeys, we are having to relook at where we are interacting with customers. And I think conversational AI is really a game changer. It will be the answer to all the problems that we face today. Just to give you some $1 trillion spent every year in contact center led customer service delivery or service request handling, and almost 600 billion calls are handled. Imagine the workload in that's taken up by banks, by service providers to handle these call flows, and this can easily be replaced by communication AI, provided it is done in the right way. Yeah. That's another point of contention. I'm not sure if all who are from the technology side really agree, but the way that we could be able to implement, for example, chatbots so far, it's done a lot. I wouldn't say that it hasn't. For example, for us, our chatbot is able to handle 20 to 25,000 queries every month from customers across some 60 to 70 different type of requests. So for fulfillment of basic requirements. But these are more of the simpler ones. I think still the technology it has some miles to go before it can start to handle the complex service requirements of customers. And we are talking only message based, we are talking chatbots. In voice based, I think we have a long way to go, and NLP and voice recognition technology, I think still has a lot of time. But imagine, what kind of ROI we can offer to banks if we are able to get that. Recently there was a study done by Bain, one of the big consulting firms, and shocking results came out. It came out that 89% of bank customers claim that they are ready to switch their banking or their savings and transaction management to a FinTech company who were to offer something similar. Only and only because of the digital enablement available there and the ease with which they allow transaction and payments to happen. So customers are not really anymore waiting line to deposit cash, make withdrawals, get cash handled, bring their cash into the branch, or having some stranger come to their house and help them navigate, challenges they face on payments. Even on investments like SIP, based on the risk profiling. I think AI is here to stay, and it has a huge role to play in helping banks, matter and complete and offer, a strong proposition to their customers in the wake of new banks and fintechs coming up. So yeah, from a customer perspective, I think this is what it is, and back to you for the time to take up.
Thank you so much, Aman. You kind of, without realizing it, summarized most of the conversation we've had. But Gangadhar was in fact pointing out the same thing, that the customers is willing to shift immediately and without any loyalties as such. But before I open it up to the audiences, I just wanted one last question from everyone here in this on this panel. It is no doubt by this time, there is no doubt that conversational AI and voice bots are going to be significantly important in everything that financial services and banking work does. But I wanted to understand from each of you of, how important is an omni-channel experience now for the consumer?
It's very important to have an omni-channel experience, because when you enter a bank, okay, irrespective of where you get the service delivery, the experience across those deliveries are more, it's kind of a unified experience that gives a wow factor to the customer. Whether you go to the IVR or you go to the branch or you go to the channels, if you get the same common experience, that is more satisfying to the customer. It's also in terms of how you present the bank. Okay, that presents a bank in a very unified manner. Because if you see today, if you go to each of those channels, you go to each of those, the way in which, suppose even if you book an AFD, a fixed deposit, you go to branch, you have to do some activities. You go to a channel, you have to do a different set of activity. You go to an IVR, you have another set of activity. So the customer has to remember all these set of activities to complete his banking transaction. Why do the customer want to remember so much? Its customer need not remember something. The bank has to remember the sequences and make it so simpler to the customer that the customer just comes and gets the service delivered in a fraction of a second.
Yeah, completely agree. Just one example is not only within the department, but across the bank. If the customer is calling up customer service for a issue with a savings bank account versus a customer calling for a issue with the loan that customer have taken, or for that matter, a collection person calling up the customer. If the customer gets that same level of experience across the departments who are reaching out to the customer or customer reaching out to us, that is the key, be it sales, service, or collections across the bank.
Just to add on to that, let's say if talking in terms of, let's say, voice AI or a voice bot. So let's say if a customer is calling a voice bot, or a voice bot has reached out to a customer, the bot should be able to identify the customer from its mobile number itself. And that's something that we are doing at other channels. Then why not on the voice bot also? A bot should not go ahead and then again ask his name, again ask his mobile number, not again ask the account number. These informations are already available on your net banking and mobile banking channel. The same experience has to be delivered on a voice bot as well. And that's where the whole omni-channel experience come into the picture. And that's where the lot of vendors that you see at the conference will help the banks out to bring that omni-channel experience for us.
So I'll be echoing with everybody, but I mean, what I'm saying is, gone are the days wherein on IVR you got to select the preferred voice in which you want to speak to a customer service associate, or maybe you want to hear the IVR announcements in English, Hindi, Malayalam, Punjabi. Now are the days wherein banks would be probably asking customers what is the channel which you will be preferring, probably talking to us. Maybe you would want to have in WhatsApp communication only. We won't be sending any emails or in text messages to you, because these are of no use to us, and that's a cost to every bank. And when we say omni-channel experience, whether it is important or not, yes, it is. There are cooperative banks still. I mean, in the banking environment itself, there are rural regional banks. They don't have mobile applications. They don't have customer support. Everything that whatever you want to do, you got to go and visit that branch. As in when the other financial institutions are getting into those territories, people are switching from those banks. People are switching from those institutions because they don't want to visit the branch all the time. That's a basic one, I'm saying. And the customers, those who are from the areas, I mean, let's say you're talking about metro cities, when people from the generation Z that we talk about, they don't want to even call up customer service, or rather speak to an announcement, IVR announcement maybe. They want to do something over WhatsApp, and they're happy doing it. And we got to adapt to it, whatever our customers are right now asking for.
And I mean, just to add one example before we move on. So let's say if you are going to a branch, and if you, let's say, start talking in Hindi or your local language, the executive will reply to you in the same language. Now that same experience can easily be replicated on a voice bot. You don't need to select a language. You don't need to press 1 to select English. You just start talking in English or Hindi, and the bot will understand and respond in that same particular language. So that's the omni-channel experience that we are all trying to move towards.
Yeah.
I would still want to call omni-channel as something which was a keyword a decade back. Yes. It's like asking, do you have a bank account, to me. Omni-channel, I would say it is no more that it is not something futuristic, it is of yesteryear. Yeah. I would call it as today, enterprises have to start looking at, I have a website, I have a mobile app, I have a contact center, inbound, outbound. We have to start thinking the future customer, how he's expecting a service is that. when I go to a website and click a button and interact, or a mobile app, or when I call, is your IVR, your inbound, outbound, mobile app, website, all of them, are you giving a similar experience or using 25 different artists? Mobile app voice was done by XYZ vendor, he gave you some voice. Some inbound IVR, I bought some system 20 years back, it's sounding like this. Voice bot, I want like human-like. But when I want to call back a voice blast, it is okay to sound like a machine. I think that era is over. I think I call it as omni voice rather than calling omni channel. We have to register the name still, but. So I want to give customers an experience across all channels. Can it be a same brand identity? Can you build for your own brand? Right. Today, why are we even talking about having same robotic voice running in 25 banks? There is no differentiator. We have to start thinking that, do I have a voice of my own? Does it sound the same across all channels? I think that's the customer experience the millennials are looking, and the traditional banks are fighting the battle with neobanks, which have no branches.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's just they're building a mind share and taking away millions of customers. I was meeting a CEO, a founder of a neo credit card company. They have issued 30 lakh credit cards in the last 1.5 years. And they're looking at 10x in the next 2 years growth. So the thought has to change. If the aspiration is that high, I think we have to keep thinking and keep innovating and seeing how do we deliver a better customer experience, at the same time not burning a bigger hole on the pocket. Yeah. That's my closing comment.
There's no choice right now. Before we close, any questions? We have 3 minutes, so 1 or 2 questions. Yeah. Please do introduce yourself and let us know who the question is for.
Hi, this is Tanmay. I'm a product owner for digital customer experience with Piramal Finance. The question is to the entire panel. So when it comes to implementing voice over any digital channel, one major challenge for me as a product owner would be prioritizing the use cases. So what are some good ways to quantify the business impact of a voice implementation on the customer front-end side, both before the implementation and after the implementation?
See, that's basically depends based on the organizational need. If the voice, I will say the conversational AI is being deployed, considering the fact that we want to run a cost servicing the customers, then you may want to look at the number of units or number of transactions or events happening around the use cases. Let's say credit card bill statement request has, let's say, 10,000 interactions coming in on your IVR or on your customer service. Then that may become a priority over a debit card request maybe, or any other request that comes to you. If you want to deliver a right customer experience and you want to do away with a 20-year back old system of IVR and you want to go to conversational AI or voice bot for delivering a right customer experience, you might want to look at the kind of amount customers are investing on the IVRs or on the interactions while they are doing on customer service, and then putting them in the priority of list that you're creating for your use cases.
Again, just to add to it, it again comes down to the cost of servicing a customer or an IVR, and also the cost that you're going to incur to service that customer if that call is handled by an agent. Compare that to an investment that you are making in a voice bot or a voice AI technology, and you'll be able to do a good cost-benefit analysis.
I completely agree with what he says. It's it's your cost, it's how much you are going to get your return on how much you are investing to reduce, increase your efficiency versus how much kind of convenience you are going to give. It's kind of, you need to prioritize, you need to balance between how much you are going to get in return versus how much you are bringing the efficiency, and then the easiness which of the service which you are going to implement, which is the most easiest one, which is going to give you the higher return, that will take the priority shape.
I will just add only one point to it. Ask only one question before any automation. Currently, is human agent adding any value to that process or no? If you're using human being like a machine, it is better served by a machine.
Mine is more like a comment to whatever was discussed last question. First thing is actually when you're talking about cost and the time spent by the user or the bank person, we have to talk. I think banks also have to look into the acquiring a customer, cost of acquiring a customer, and cost for losing a customer, because that is a bigger cost in the overall thing. If suppose I as a bank give a IVR and that is frustrating him, and he switches to the next, you are not only losing the chance of giving an experience to the customer, but you are losing him for entire time. So I feel that at this point also could be a very relevant thing when you talk. Yeah, and second thing, Mr. Gangadhar was mentioning about when you are comparing or deciding to use a bot or a human being, the thing is we need to see whether a human being is adding value to the whole conversation. So here, one thought I have is, considering that approach, there would be some X percentage of call flows which cannot be evaluated by the human being, and therefore it can continue with the machine. But the remaining of them may still go to IVR and other things, similar things. I hope banks would find it useful rather than frustrating the customers by keeping them in IVR. Because I have seen out of many IVRs which I regularly interact for my regular use, maybe only 2 or 3% IVRs I like them very well, and I always want to use it. But 97% I don't want to use it, but I have to use it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.